Bookstores are normally a fun place to go and look around. Adult bookstores could be even more fun. But on January 17th, 1987, in Shelby, North Carolina, you would be dead wrong. That's because three men went in there and opened fire. And the only reason they did that is because the people inside were gay and in the wrong place. This is their story. Hello, I'm Sean. If you're new here, then welcome to my channel. If you are returning, then welcome back. It's good to see you again. Twice a week, I research true crimes that I find interesting to tell you about. I want to remember the victims, and there are a lot of victims out there. And since it is June and it's Pride Month, this month I am focusing mainly on the LGBTQ community of victims. And there are a lot of them. You could easily do two a day and still not cover all of the ones in recent history, just like in the last 10 years. Um, it's hate is a terrible thing, and I, I don't understand it. But if you're not subscribed, please do so. It is free. I am monetized, and I do have other options if you wanted to not subscribe, but become a member. I appreciate each and every one of you, and if you want to support me kindly, you can buy me a coffee. You can do a super chat, super thanks, things like that. I'd really appreciate it. If you have any ideas for future crimes, please feel free to leave a message. So now on with today's true crime. I want to first give out a shout out to a podcast where I got some of my information from. Um, Mainly, they're the ones who made me aware of this crime. Part of their name is something that I normally would not say, but I want to give them credit, so I'm going to say the name. But I it's a word that some people have said is offensive, while other LGBTQ community members say it's a perfectly fine word, especially since it is in the term LGBTQ. So I want to thank Beers with Queers for a great story. You can check them out at many other true crime stories that they have. I will include a link to them in my description, but they are some pretty good guys. I've listened to a few of their stories, and they're really cool. And now, seriously, on with our story. In the 1980s, being gay was still an extremely taboo subject. Many people were still in the closet. The AIDS epidemic was in full force, and society were blaming both drug users and homosexual men for the spread. They had to be private. They had to find a safe place to meet others of their liking. One such place was the Shelby 3 bookstore in Shelby, North Carolina. It was an adult bookstore that had a large gay male clientele. So on January 17th, 1987, five men were shopping in the store when three or four, there's two different guesses, is either three or four masked men came into the bookstore. They had guns and ordered the men to lay face down on the floor. The cowards hiding behind their masks spread out throughout the store and started shooting the men in the back of the head. They were using .22 calibers and .45 caliber guns. Three of the men, Travis Melton, who was 19 years old, Kenneth Godfrey, who was 29 years old, and Paul Weston, who was 26 years old, all died right away from their wounds. But two of the men, James Paris and John Anthony, survived their shots. James recounted that he was laying on the ground, hearing gunshots, and then he felt a muzzle against the back of his right temple, and then he heard a bang. The bullet went through his head and left out his left eye socket. He laid there and listened to the men while they lit the place on fire. He said that he realized that it was getting hot, so that's when he got up and got out of the building. I do need to apologize because Travis is the only person that I have a picture of. Um, I don't, and I searched. I could not find any pictures of any of the other gentlemen that died or the other two gentlemen that survived, and I feel terrible about it. My only thinking is that it's 1987 and they were gay men, so of course they just didn't care enough to present their pictures or obituaries or anything like that online. So I do apologize for that. This video lacks a lot of photos. The gunman stole money from the cash register and placed gasoline-filled jugs around the store and started the place on fire right before fleeing for the night. James and John were able to escape the blaze and get outside. They flagged down a motorist on US Route 74 and told them to call the police. Law enforcement investigated a number of leads. They looked for multiple motives for the shooting. One was a possible mafia hit, and another was a business dispute. They even thought that it might have been a crime of passion involving jilted ex-lovers of one of the men. Eventually, they turned their attention toward Fraser Miller Jr., who was the leader of the North Carolina-based White Patriots Party, the WPP. On April 6, 1987, the WPP declared war on the United States federal government. By April 30th, Miller, Douglas Sheets, Robert Johnson, and Anthony Widra were arrested in a mobile home in Ozark, Missouri. The authorities found a stash of C4 dynamite assault rifles and half a ton of ammunition. Soon after his arrest, Miller implicated Sheets and Jackson as the murderers in Shelby. And November of 1987, they were indicted for the murders. There were also two other WPP associates that were implicated in the shooting, Hugh Black and Jeff Johnson, but neither of them were charged for the attack. But Black did spend 16 months in jail for refusing to testify about the incident to the federal grand jury. Sheets and Jackson were set to be tried separately in 1989. Sheets' trial went up first in April and May. Miller testified that Sheets and Jackson bragged about the murders. Miller stated that Jackson told him about a pistol whipping of one of the men. 3 other inmates stated that Sheets told them that he committed the murders too, but the prosecution could not place either of Sheets or Jackson in Shelby. Sheets actually had an alibi, placing him in Kansas the day before the killings on January 16th. At the same time, a blizzard hit Kansas, making it nearly impossible for him to have ever actually traveled and arrived in North Carolina the next night. Sheets was acquitted of the murder and the charges were dropped against Jackson. Now, unlike these two, Miller had no alibi for the night, and during his testimony against Sheets, he talked about a two-way mirror in the bookstore, which he would not have known about unless he was there. One of Sheets' lawyers alleged that Miller told Sheets and Jackson he was going to point the finger at them, but not to worry because they can't convict them on hearsay evidence. Don't worry, Sheets and Jackson did not get off scot-free. They both got 20 years for charges in Ozark, Missouri. Miller, on the other hand, got 5 years for Ozark and then was released after serving 3 years. On April 13th, 2014, Miller was arrested for killing 3 people in separate shootings at Jewish centers in Overland Park, Kansas. At the first location, 69-year-old William Caporon and his 14-year-old grandson, Rhett Underwood, were killed. At the second location, Terry Lamano was killed. One of Sheets' lawyers stated that a year after the shooting, Miller's White Patriot Party published a pamphlet claiming credit for the burning of an adult bookstore in Shelby. Wow, that was one heck of an alliteration. Patriot Party published a pamphlet. Sorry, I, I didn't realize that when I typed at the time, but nothing was ever done to Miller about that pamphlet, though, and he died in prison in 2021 for the killings at the Jewish centers. The Shelby Bookstore murders are still unsolved. In 1988, I was just a kid, but even then I knew it was not my choice on who people loved. I knew gay people, and they never tried to convert me or touch me or anything that haters think. These haters for gay pride will spout out that they're going to turn you gay or into child predators or things like that. And all the gay people I know have never done any of that. It's all about hate. And I just don't understand that. So, I'm sorry that these 3 gentlemen lost their lives, and I wish I knew more about them. I couldn't find, except for the testimony of the one gentleman, I couldn't find anything about them. And it really made me sad, because I'd like to at least try to give some positive side to these people. I don't know. Yeah. You love who you love, and that is who you are. Don't let others change your mind. Too much preaching. I'll get off my soapbox, and thank you for watching. As always, if you're not subscribed, please do so. You can continue the chat or continue the discussion in the chat below. Be good to yourself. Be good to others. Love you all. I'll see you next time. Bye.